What's going on, everybody? This is Island Hopper TV coming to you from the Greek island, where we're going to show you around the best islands for you to visit. There will be timestamps in the description below. First up, let's start out in Milos. This is the southwesternmost island in the Cyclades island chain. You will need an all-terrain vehicle to get around this island if you fully want to explore here. I do consider Milos to be the ultimate adventure island in the Greek islands from my experience. An all-terrain vehicle like a quad or a moped will work, preferably a rental car. You would probably want to rent that before you get there because prices can be steep. You arrive in Andamantis and then you can go around the island from there. Just across the way is Mandrakia. That's a very beautiful village you can see right here on the water. You can actually rent those cottages, just don't expect a VIP experience on this side of the island, really. If you wanted that VIP experience, you could go up to the hill where they have Plaka, or you can go to the other side of the island to Polonia. This here is a look at Sarakaniko Beach. This is actually a volcanic cave kind of area. And then here's a look at my favorite beach. This is called Firi Plaka. Again, it's on another side of the island, further proving my point that you need a rental vehicle. And you can see right here, this is a look at Polonia, which I already said was the VIP type area. I would say the best beaches are going to be on the southwest side of the island. They also have some sea caves. You can see the water out here is very translucent blue. It's that Gatorade blue that we like. And then they have some great seafood dishes that you can get, wide variety, also gyros and souvlaki. So great food. Here's a look at our Airbnb that we had. Really nice Airbnb. We did two different ones. This one was up in Plaka. It seemed like the best village was actually Plaka. Andamantis was a nice village for a seaport, but if you really wanted to go out at night, Plaka is where you want to be. But, you know, overall, wherever you are on Milos is going to be a good, relaxing time for you. Next up, we have the island of Paros. Paros is actually one of my favorite islands if you really just want to relax and do some adventuring. Another one of those Greek islands where I do recommend a rental vehicle. The port where you arrive, it's very easy to get in and out of. This one is called Parakia. As with many of the Greek islands, we're going to call this one a hidden gem. There's so many different islands out here, so it's really easy to find these hidden gems, but Paros definitely stood out to me. There's not a lot of trees here, so don't expect a lot of shade. You're going to need an umbrella probably, just like Milos, no natural vegetation. But it is a nice big island for you to go around and explore, and you can find seclusion if that's what you're looking for. Paros also has a really small airport, but I do recommend just arriving on ferry from one of the other neighboring islands. Some of the islands nearby that you might want to arrive from would be Naxos or even Antiparos, but typically you go Naxos, Paros, then to Antiparos. I would say it's about an hour and 10-minute ferry ride away from Mykonos if you wanted to go that route. But you could see just walking around the villages here, so many different villages. They're very relaxing. It's actually a big island if you really go around it. You'll realize they have quite a bit of real estate. I would say 1 to 2 days on Paros should be just enough, unless you really want to kick back and relax and do a whole week. But Paros, 1 to 2 days is good for me. Next up, we're headed to Santorini. So Santorini is more of a couple's paradise for honeymooners. This is a place to go with your significant other. They have these cottages that are on the cliffs overlooking the caldera. Beautiful place here with these jacuzzis. But I would say Santorini is more for couples. Everyone that I talked to who was solo or traveling with friends didn't really care for Santorini. Number one reason was because it's very expensive. But overall, Santorini is still one of the best islands in the world. There's no taking away that. I would say if you do arrive in Santorini, 3 to 4 days should be enough, unless you're trying to do a couples retreat, do a week. But 3 to 4 days, you can get all around Santorini. You can get to the red sand beach. You can get up to the top of the hill and check out Akrotiri. And if there was any sort of beaches on Santorini, they're mostly going to be on the southwest side of the island. Over here you have the red sand beach, the black sand beach, the white sand beach. You could also go over to Perisa Beach, also has a connecting water taxi that goes to Kamari Beach. You can see they have lots of water activities over here. Accommodation on Santorini is going to start at least around $120 a night, and that kind of room is going to be very basic. And they go up to $200 to $300, $400 a night. So again, peak season on Santorini, very expensive, but it is an ultimate experience for sure. That's why I'm recommending 3 to 4 days. Also, I want to let you guys know that we do have full travel guides for many of these different islands, for Santorini, for Milos, for Naxos, Mykonos. So check the description below if you wanted to check out our travel guides for each one of those. Let's keep going. So the 2 times that I've been to Santorini, the first time I stayed near Pariza Beach. That's a nice place to stay. But this time we actually stayed in Ia. Ia is basically the only thing on this side of the island, along with their little seaport down there towards the caldera. But that's a heck of a hike, by the way. But I would say the best place to stay, hands down, has got to be in the middle of the island, probably Fira or Kamari. That just seems to be the most logical destinations. The thing about Kamari, it's too close to the airport, so you're going to hear planes taking off and landing. That's why I recommend Fira, really, above all else. And when it comes to arrival or departing from here at the ferry port, wow, this one is definitely a very unique port because you have to go all the way down this windy road to get to the ferry port just to get on one of these world champion jet or one of these ships. But boy, is it incredible. Santorini is far away from all the other islands, so keep that in mind. Next up, we're headed to Mykonos, which is considered the ultimate party island, especially for young people because of all of the day clubs and the beach clubs that they have here. But they also have a nice vibe down on Little Venice, which is in the main port area. And you can see that the new port area is actually a 15-minute water taxi ride away from Chora, which is actually considered the old port, and that's where Little Venice is. But it does take about 15 minutes to get there from the cruise port or the ferry terminal. I would say some of the best shopping is here in the Little Venice area. When it comes to beaches, there's many different beaches across the southern part of Mykonos. And again, you're going to need a rental car more than likely because it's expensive to get a taxi or a chauffeur. It's a very busy island. But the thing is, it's probably the hardest island to drive around. The streets are so narrow, and when someone's driving by in a van and you're in a rental car, I mean, it's not easy. But your rental car is going to be like a Mini Cooper anyway. I would say if you could stay around the Paradise Beach area, that's going to be a nice place. You could also stay in Ornos, or you could just go to one of these off the beaten path places across the island. But again, so many different beaches for you to pick from. It's not very difficult to get there. Lots of water activities. And I know some of you aren't going to like to hear this, but I would say Mykonos is even more expensive than Santorini, so take that into consideration. The airport here is very small. I almost recommend island hopping from some other island to get here. I would say even getting out to the Greek islands, you might just be better off just arriving in Athens and then taking the ferry boat out to the islands and island hopping around to find which island works for you. Hopefully this guide's helping you, of course, but let's keep going. For me, I would say 3 to 5 days on Mykonos felt about right. It is one of those islands that the longer you stay, the more you start to fall in love with it. It kind of hits hard in the beginning, but as you kind of stay there, it grows on you. You can see our Airbnb here. This was actually up on the hill near the airport. Wasn't on the beach or anything. Cost about $250 a night. It was a 1-bedroom with a fold-out couch. I'm not going to say that sunsets on Mykonos are better than the other islands, but I will say it is a very popular thing to do on Mykonos, which is doing sun gazing at sunset right there around Little Venice area. Now we're headed to Crete. This is actually the largest island in Greece, the 5th largest in the Mediterranean Sea, and the 88th largest in the world. Crete is actually famous for its beaches. It's also famous for its mountain ranges. Very big island to go around here. It's also very far south compared to the other islands. For example, if you were to take a ferry from Santorini to Crete, it would take you 2 hours, but it could take even longer depending on what kind of ferry you're on. So make sure you pay attention to whether or not you're on the fast ferry or the slow-moving ferry. And also, while you're here, check out the Minoan civilization. There are a bunch of ancient sites all across these islands, and each island is going to have its own historical background, Crete being one of them that does. Now we're headed to Naxos. Speaking of ancient sites, this here is the Temple of Apollo, which they've reconstructed. They said it was perfectly aligned with the sun at one point. Naxos and Paros are very close to each other. You can actually island hop very easily. If you were to compare the two, I would say Naxos is more rugged, whereas Paros has more boutique hotels. but I would say Naxos is more family friendly and has better beaches in my opinion, but all of that is subject to your own opinion. Also, I found it to be easier to get a rental car on Naxos, so there's give and take, but Naxos has got some amazing beaches, that's for sure, but it's definitely more of a family-friendly island than the other ones like Mykonos or Santorini. The first night we actually stayed in a hotel right there in the Naxos port area. It was a really old building, oh my gosh, it was so old, but hey, it was a place to lay our head, and then we decided to actually head out to some of the beaches. And once we did that, it felt like Naxos definitely hit a little bit different, a little bit better actually. But we headed over to Plaka Beach. Also, they have Orkos Beach and many different beaches. They also have Agios Prokopios, which is another big beach. All of those are basically facing towards the west. Now, when it comes to food, obviously you're going to have Greek salads. You're going to have more gyros, souvlaki, all that good stuff. Seafood also. Another thing to point out is they have public transportation on this island, so you might not even need to get a rental car. So that's kind of the benefit that Naxos has that the other islands don't have. Although those buses do fill up, so always try to get the one a little bit earlier. Don't try to cut it too close if you need to catch the ferry. Here is a look at some of that fresh seafood right there. Now, one thing I wanted to say about the benefit of having a rental car is actually going around the whole island. So getting out there and exploring up in the mountain range can be really cool because Naxos is one of the most dramatic islands. I could easily do 4 days or a week on Naxos. Next up, we're headed to Ios. Now, this is very popular with university students from Northern Europe. They come down here and party, but they also have some very cool boutique luxury resorts around this island. Some of the areas you want to check out are going to be Chora, which is basically at the top of the hill. That's one of the most popular places to get a hotel for cheap. If you wanted to stay in the port, that's also good. But going over to Milopotes or over to the other beach at Koampara, really cool beaches. In between is the port of both of those. Another thing about Ios, they do have a bus, although it's not so reliable. It definitely is easier to have a rental car, but they do have that public transportation. Although you want to check that schedule before you try to lean on that too much. This is a look at Milopotes. You could see around here they've got beach volleyball and other sorts of activities on the beach. Really a nice place to swim when it's not too windy, because that's another thing about the Greek islands. It can get windswept at times, especially in the winter and the spring months, but even in the summer. On this day we were here, it was very calm, so that was nice. But then they have these incredible beach clubs, and those are going to be over by Koampara. They have nice beach clubs in Milopotes, but I would say Koampara, oh my gosh, those are some of the best beach clubs I've ever been to. But you can see just around the port area, it's very calm, very relaxing. You can easily get accommodation here for $150 to $200 a night during peak season. But like I said, here's those beach clubs. This is where the big ticket in town is. You will come from far and wide just to go to this one right here. This one we're walking around is actually called the Pathos Club and Restaurant. You can look it up online. But just down below, they also have a really nice one with an infinity pool and a beach down in Koampara Beach. It's called Orego Beach Club and Restaurant. So go around there, check it out. They do have public transportation that will take you here, but again, you're going to be cramming into a bus with a bunch of loud uni students. So if you can, try to get a moped and drive over here, or maybe even get a taxi or a private driver, although those are hard to find, especially if you're trying to leave in the evening time. But yes, they do have the bus going back and forth to the port or to Chora. Next up, we're headed to Rhodes. Now, Rhodes is definitely one of the most popular islands in the Greek islands. In fact, when I was in Athens, I asked a Greek local, I said, of all the islands, which one's your favorite? And he said Rhodes. Now, remember, they have Rhodesian, which is like a culture. But this one is very interesting because it's just off the coast of Turkey. So there's a lot of history here with Greek civilization. You could actually take a ferry to Turkey and be there in about an hour and a half. Also, something I liked about Rhodes was the fact it had more lush greenery and trees. So that's something that this island has that the other ones in the Cyclades don't have. Now we're actually headed up to the Ionian Islands. This one is called Zakynthos. Now there are a few islands up here that we could mention. Kefalonia and Zakynthos are the main ones. But you can see right here they've got that deep blue Gatorade colored water that you love to swim in. They've also got the blue cave. Yeah, what a great place to swim. They've also got Navajo. Some people call it Shipwreck Beach. So yeah, Zakynthos and the Ionian Islands. So many beautiful islands in Greece that we could highlight on this one, but we only have so much time. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this helps you guys understand where to go in Greece. If it does, smash the like button, consider subscribing, and watch some more of these other videos. We'll put a video about things to know when visiting Greece, and we'll also put an Athens tour guide right here at the end.